Yeah. Yeah. This is one vibe. One vibe. One vibe. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. 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 So welcome. This is your boy Don Peter Jelko. Welcome to the Exoticprenuer Show, aka the keys to the motherfucking bag. I am your host, Don Peter Gentleman, and we are here today to literally just get busy. Make sure y'all go ahead and follow me on Instagram at the Exoticprenuer if you want to kick it with me personally at Donald Perattis. You feel me? And shout out to all my co-hosts. That is Mr. One Hell of a Guy. Make sure you follow him and at I Get Touch Mag, Cat versus Sashi. You feel me? We just get it in all the way out live, all the way. Look, you feel me? So it's just a vibe at this point that we want to make sure that everything is just everything. No cap, no stresses, no worries. We just ready to go. You feel me? So with that being said, hey, look, welcome. All right. So today I want to make sure that we just tapped in a little bit. And this is episode 2, where I want to kind of cover some of the little nuances about becoming an exoticpreneur and getting into the world. But I want to keep it 100 with everybody and let y'all, and just keeping it, letting you know, like there's a cycle to this stuff. There's like a lifespan. So, just like, well, shit, it's just like the weather comes and goes. It's just like how we become young and then we become older. There's also a cycle of exoticpreneur, but not in the same sense in the traditional sense, but in the sense of that there is a cycle of where you're going to grow, then you're going to transform, then you're going to reinvent, and then you're going to have to go ahead and circumvent, which means you're going to have to go back to where you first started and go to the highest level. And that's greatness. Okay. So the whole goal of an exoticpreneur, if you don't know, is to the successful alignment of your mind, body, and spirits to attract high energy that translates into financial gains, relationships, spiritual and social attraction. So doing those different things and moving in that space allows you to operate at your highest levels. Now, a lot of people make it seem as if it's something unique, and that is the truth. It is unique. Exotic is the definition of exotic is unique. That's the translation of the word. And preneur is just the organization of things, or the point of where that you can organize and turn it into something. So when you're taking your unique thinking and you're taking that and putting it into action and it becomes something real, then at that point you're an exoticpreneur, and you're moving in the space of defining your purpose. And as always, we wear with pride. You feel me? So that's the whole concept. That's the mission. That's the philosophy that I've adopted. That was actually downloaded into me, and it was supposed to be actually executed in that capacity. So now I'm just doing the work that I was called to do, which is spreading the ideology on it without any type of religious dogma or any type of restriction on your ability to achieve greatness, because everybody defines greatness a different kind of way. I just understood it that there are 6 clear habits that allow you to achieve it. And if you go to 6dailyhabits.com, you'll be able to experience that. And as you can see, the book is right behind me, and that book is authored by your boy. You feel me? So if you were to go to my Instagram and go to exoticpreneur.com, you can find a link in the bio. It's right there. It's always available for download. It's always available for download instantaneously, or you can get the book and the download at the time. We just make it easy for you. So now that that's out the way, the shameless plug, because at the end of the day, the value that I want to share with y'all, it has to be shared directly, and I want to make sure you have it in any and every form. So as you subscribe and as you like and subscribe to this channel and to the Exoticprenuer Show, that we can just keep it pushing, but keep it positive, keep it progressive. So without further ado, let's get to it. So we know that So first thing I want to kick it with y'all is about your goals. So like there's a lot of reasons when you get into the exoticpreneur world, and I'm just talking from the past. So case in point, when I first got into the game, now I was just a nobody, at the time. I just had a skill set, which was I was a great photographer, and that's only because I was fortunate enough to be mentored by a great photographer who was already a veteran, and we toured all over the world. So the skill set of becoming the adding value to that industry was pretty much there. But I don't want to talk about me. Let's talk about the people that come into the game initially. So when you coming up, majority of people that get into the exotic entertainment industry is broke. We don't have much. We didn't have much to start with, but we knew that there was an opportunity to at least get started. A lot of people look for it for just quick money. It's no different than if you were, if you're a waitress or a waiter. That if you're serving someone. And I want you to follow me with this. The fact that people that don't have much or is coming to the game and they know they want more, the first thing they do is they go into a place where that one, they can get fast money, but two, how they come in is they come in with an attitude of servitude. If you look at anybody that comes in, when we come into the game, we don't know nothing, but we know we're willing to do whatever we have to do to get there. And morally, a lot of people say, well, you don't have to put yourself into that degradation. But look at it like this. You do it when you go and get a job. You do it when you go and actually commit $150,000 to $100,000 debt to just get a piece of paper to say that you qualified to know something. It's the same idea. You submitted yourself to a whole different ideology or programming that said that this is the standard of lifestyle. But when you come into the exoticpreneur world, you come in like, look, I'm just willing to serve, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to at least put myself in a position financially at that time to get there. So if you were a person that's going to school, you was willing to take on this debt because you realize you believe in this space that, hey, look, I'm going to put myself in debt with these loans, with this Sally Mae and everything to literally for a promise to get a job that now will help me get out of the poverty that I was just exposed to. Now, of course, people, you can say that don't make sense, but look at it's the parallelism. You're doing the exact same thing. It's just some people are willing to do it right now, and they're going to get immediate gratification versus a person that's going to use delayed gratification with a promise too. Now, the thing is that we learn as you become more mature in life, and we become mature in the exoticpreneur world, that there is no guarantees. There's only promises, and there's attitudes. There's ways that you can get things done, and there's things that you just gotta go with the punches or roll with it. So in this space, we learn that you gotta roll with the punches. Like at one point, do you know that, hey, look, some days I'm gonna make a lot of money, some days I don't. See, and in entrepreneurship, you learn that since there is no guarantees, if we don't go to work, then we don't get no work. If we don't, it was a thing that I had learned when I was a young salesman. When I was I think I was like 18, 19 years old, and I used to work for a cell phone company. And the first thing we had to learn is that we used to work in the malls back when malls was like popping. So the first thing it was if you don't greet, you don't eat. Period. If you don't greet, you don't eat. So you learn real early in the game that if you're not opening your mouth, if you're not sharing your opportunity, if you're not sharing the what you have of value to another person that has the monies that you need, then you're not going to eat that day. Now, one of the well-known billionaires out here, Grant Cardone, will always talk about, who got some of my money, and that was the mantra that we would say in the bar game. It's like, yo, somebody got this money, and we just got to go get it. If you don't greet, you don't eat. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Now, how does this apply to your modern day or your everyday entrepreneur now? Well, the thing is that in the everyday entrepreneur now, they use all these ads, marketing tactics of just promoting a product without letting people know what's the value. Like, what is it that someone else desire that they're willing to come up off their hard-earned money for what you have to offer? Now, you know, even though we work in that space, look at the parallelism. The parallelism is this: is that you wanted to add value and you was willing to give yourself. I want you to roll that back. In the exotic entertainment industry, what our value was ourselves. And we're willing to give ourselves in exchange for a small portion of their wealth because they valued it enough to say, well, if you're willing to submit yourself to me in the highest form of service, we're going to bless you or support you financially with this amount of money. And then from there, it was able to set the standard. Now, if you look at how that works, and I'm going to choose this into another form, when you're in the actual sales or marketing space as a traditional business, you're doing above and beyond to get a person to actually spend some money with you or exchange their currency in exchange for what you have to offer. So they're saying, hey, you're telling me that, hey, I got something so good, so great that you should have it. But the person that you normally meet that goes up to you and say, well, I don't know. Why should I want this? Why should I want this? Because I'm not thinking about it. It's like when you get those random phone calls from them telemarketers, or you get them random phone calls from them automated services trying to say, hey, this is that. This is, or as of currently right now, you getting them wild text messages or DMs from people in other countries that sit here scamming and making you believe that you can make all this money if you just submit. If you give us $200, we'll give you $2,000 or $20,000. Now, how does that make sense in any form of truth or any form of believability? It's the rule of there's no such thing as something for nothing. In the book that I wrote, in the book Defined by Purpose, my very first book, the first thing in the chapter 4, I talk about the hit or lick attitude, and what the hit or lick attitude is literally the and I give you a point. So growing up, there was a lot of people in my family, especially that they gambled a lot. Now, I don't have nothing against people that gamble because I do understand that life is a gamble. When you go out every day, you're risking it all to make something out of nothing. But there's a point where that when do you realize that hitting that lick turns into a point of like you just keep working at it, and now you're how do I want to say it? How can I say this? I want to slow down because sometimes I get a little excited for myself. It's the point of where that everything requires practice and skill set. So even if you're gambling, you wasn't a good gambler at the first time. It's like when you on the block and you shooting dice, you wasn't always good with the good risk action to hit a 6 or 11 or break a 7. You feel me? There was always that you had to practice on. You had to learn how to get the techniques or the nuance together. So if you were looking at like, oh, I can make fast money, but you have no skill set, then you find yourself losing what you just felt in your mind that you were going to get fast. Why? Because you still was ignorant. You still didn't have the skill. You didn't have the techniques down. And what we learned in the exotic entertainment world is that even though we came in exposing ourselves and moving fast, and the return was fairly quick, it still required a certain period of gestation or a certain period of learning how to maneuver in an area where that everything is systematically chaotic, but it's a controlled chaos. So when you're moving into the regular world or today's world where that you don't know if people coming or going, you notice that is now there's a certain techniques behind it, but they got you indoctrinated, or they got majority of us, including myself. I'm not above this. Is that we got indoctrinated to just going out and getting a small form of income, which is this job, but yet when we look at that, this job don't satisfy majority of our needs and barely our wants, then we find ourselves going back to looking for other opportunities. So when the exoticpreneur moves now, it moves with a purpose where that now the opportunity is me. Why? Because when we went back to the original statement that I was talking about, and that was that of willing to serve or submit yourself, and willing to submit your whole self, your whole body in exchange for a sense of service. And when you're able to serve properly and put yourself in the right rooms, in the right spaces that had more or was able to give or share their abundance with you, you're able to attract more and earn more. Now, how is that helping with you mentally? Now, of course, it's letting you know, the exoticpreneur learns real quick, like, hey, look, if I'm in the right space, if I'm in the right room, then at that point I'm going to be able to get the right opportunities that's presented to me. Now in the exotic entertainment industry, you meet a plethora of people. Now I'm going to talk about one of the things that some truths and some false and some myths. So the first thing I want to say is that um, when you're in exotic entertainment, that a lot of people think that there's a lot of prostitution or boom boom room popping off, and that's not true. Yes, some people do that, but that is normally prearranged, and that's something that was set up prior to. That is not the pretense for an organized thing. So I don't condone it, and I'm not talking about that. But that's a myth because that's not how it goes. It's a private entertainment and it's a private show. So what happens is that once you're putting yourself in a position of private or exclusivity, the price goes on. So now, how does this work in your sales game or in your marketing game? Well, when you're valuing your time and you're already evaluating yourself that, hey, this person has willing to submit themselves or put you in a higher precipice of actual value, then they're willing to pay a premium for your exclusivity. Is the same thing. So I want y'all to understand that I want to illustrate the correlation of how you can create value within yourself from the mindset that gave me my value. How was I able to get into rooms where now I'm networking with multimillionaires, some billionaires, and yet my background came from a space where that it was considered to be immoral and unethical, but yet I was able to network with people. How are people like Stormy Wellington is able to progress and move past to a 6 to now 8 figure and now 9 figure income stream, even though she showed her truth behind it, but now she's a not a 8 figure earner on her own, self-employed, self-made, or a Kim K. Yes, even though her parents had a legacy of some type of success in there, but she still had to earn it on her own. What was the skill sets that was applied is what I'm saying. What are the skill sets that was being applied that allowed the people like them, and I'm just using them two as an example. It's a ton of them out here that literally leverage their openness. They leverage their full self, their full body to the point where that a lot of people talked about them evilly or disgracefully, but yet they turned that into a value system and an actual economic attraction that now put them financially ahead of the 1% of the 1% of the 001%. Now, what does that mean? How does that play out to people that's in the current industry, and how does that apply to you? Okay, so and now I'm going to tell you now is a point of like there's paths. So in your life's journey, you got paths that you're going to go across and things that you're just going to have to experience. And if you came from a place or worked in a place where you had a lot of lack in your life, then there's a place where that you're going to have a certain type. There's going to be a path where they expect you to stay down. Is how we have systematic oppression. Like, for example, I was talking to a young lady yesterday about the exoticpreneur's path to greatness, and there's areas that happen in the exoticpreneur space, where that at first you're going to come into a space ignorant, like we said before, and then from there you're going to learn the tricks and the nuances of attraction and communication and connection. From there, you're going to go through a great space of prosperity and abundance. But then at there, it's going to be a point where that you're going to go to a higher, the peak point, where that now what comes up must come down. So and I call this stage 2 to stage 3. So in your lifespan, you have a total of 6 stages, 6 total stages. But most people, if you're fortunate enough to make it to 60, you're amazing. But most people go through 5 stages, and I explained a lot of that in the 6 Daily Habits books, and I'm going to detail that. But we were just going to go into stage 2 and 3. And stage 2 and 3 is basically after stage 1, which is we can't control stage 1. That's when we're born. You're born, and your environment is your environment. So that is your basic understanding or foundation, if you will, of how you may see the world. Now, that may be positive, it may be negative, but it's your basics. Now, the thing and the great part about greatness and about your ability as being a human being, and you as being a ultimate being or a god, so to speak, is that you're given ability of choice. You got a positive and a negative. You have a progressive space and a regressive space. So you have the ability, based off of what your current situation is and what your current experiences is, that it can change if you allow yourself to get into a different environment. So if you were a person like myself, and like a lot of people that I'm speaking to, I'm only speaking to these people that may have been there where they was broke, or they woke up, or they weren't born into a high level of abundance, but they was born into lack, and they just made it do what they do. They had to hustle, they had to figure things out, they were willing to expose themselves. And when I say about allowing themselves to be naked, they were willing to be vulnerable. And see, the thing is that most people are not willing to be vulnerable. It says in Genesis where that, and we got to get extra religious, but we know that most people that's born in America are Christians, or at least know the basics of Genesis, and how did the serpent tricked Eve to actually to bring the apple to Adam, and then they both ate. And then when God came to them in the Garden of Eden, they hid in front of him, and he said, why did you hide? Why are you hiding? He said, we are naked. And he said, who told you were naked? You feel what I'm saying? So at that point, your exposure, or your ability to move in abundance or move freely, where that you was already doing your purpose, or you was doing what you were supposed to do, which is what Adam and Eve were doing. They was following their purpose. But then at some point, there was a change in that space, that now they became knowledgeable of themselves, and now because of their knowledge, they became ashamed of themselves, and now they put a point of lack, or a point of disappointment, a point of judgment or prejudgments or self-sabotage against themselves, to now they had to hide in front of that very thing that gave them everything, that put them in a space that make them feel or think or even look at themselves as inferior, even though we was born superior. So if you feel me on that part, that you know that we were born in a space where that we can achieve and do everything, but yet but because of our environment, and because of people that put poor seeds into our mindset, that it started transforming our ability of greatness, our ability to perform in the highest level, to now perform in a lower or mid-level, or even a less than space. So I'm here to tell you that there is not a place where that you cannot become great. It's just now you got to start going through the process to start transforming and transmuting your mindset and your body set, to align your spirit set, to now move into the best set, which is the path of greatness that I'm talking to you right now. So in the path of greatness, there is a space where that you can be stuck and get caught up in a point where that you were so high that you get stuck there. And then when you fall, and everybody falls, no one's immune to a failure. You're not going to be perfect. No one's perfect, but you're never going to be in a place where that you can make a perfect decision every time. You're going to go through those challenges, and that's the way life is designed us. But on that path, when you get into a point of I used to be, if you get into that verbiage of where I once was, and that's a point of mental purgatory. That's a point of mental and spiritual purgatory, and that's a point that we talk about in stage 2, the tail end of stage 2, which is around 35 around in your early 30s, close to your about mid 30s, going into your 40s, when you start getting into a mental purgatory. And that mental purgatory, it start now turning into a physical purgatory, which means now you're going to a space where you don't know which way you want to go. You're still trying to learn yourself, or if you have learned what you like and what you don't like, now you got to make sure that you're in a financial situation or a financial stability that now for you to actually afford the lifestyle that you once had. Because if you were up, you're going to come down. So if you were up, coming in the game, especially if you came from lack and you turned that lack into a level up to abundance, that means you would no longer making you was living, paycheck to paycheck. Now you got Louis, you got nice cars or a decent house, and you got a comfortability. At that point, now you got to afford things in a space where that now you got to keep going. So now your circles start changing, your people start changing, and this is if you are going in path two, which is the path of greatness, of going up. So when you go into that mental and spiritual program, you start transforming yourself, you start transforming your environment, you start transforming the people. Why? Because if you were up in this industry, you started seeing the patterns that was happening around you, that people that are in this economic bracket move like this. People that get money on this level think like this. They move, they operate in this space, they communicate like this. People that are not in that prosperity space and not in that abundant space, mentally and socially, they start moving in a point of lack, where I used to, and I in a used to space, or I once was this guy, now I'm that guy. And now they start judging you, start being angry, start being envious, and start taking out their anger and their misdirected sense of lack against the very people that supported them in the first place. So when you find yourself in that space, and I'm just talking to the people that if you've been around somebody, or you might be that somebody that literally has now started pointing a finger and being angry at where you used to be, because you chose not to give your mindset where that you allowed yourself to be humble, and be humbled and open to receive your chance of redemption before you, as you go into your stage three, which is your point of reinvention. So when you get into that point of reinvention that happens between stage two and stage three, that is when the point where your spirit man and your spirit is looking to revive itself, is looking to realign itself with where you once were when you first come in. Because when you first come in, you was coming in hungry. You was willing to do whatever it takes. You was willing to sacrifice, commit, submit to all the things that allowed you to remain humble, open, and a sponge to learn the game. And once you learn the game, you don't forget the game. A lot of people start getting comfortable. And when you get in that point of comfortable is when that mental purgatory starts thinking. And because I've learned, and I can only speak on things that I learned, that I know without failure, is that once you become comfortable, it is now a certain absolute death that you are gonna fail. Why? Because comfortable keeps you mentally stuck. Comfort makes you uncomfortable, makes you what is the word I'm saying? What is the word I'm looking for? Comfortable makes you comfortable. It makes you sleepy. I was just watching the anime, and this is for my anime fans. You may not relate to this. And I just do it like this. It was a movie that I watched called One Piece Red. Shout out to my One Piece fans. And in that point, the girl felt that she was abandoned by her father, because she had an ability and a skill that she sung so beautifully that people just would fall in love with her voice. Well, unbeknownst to her, that her skill was that she would sing so well that it would put them in a trance and into a dreamlike space, where that they didn't know that they were actually in a dream, but it felt so real. So what happened was, she was singing so well that it invited a demon onto her that was attracted to her ability of skill. Her skill was so high that it attracted a demon to her, that released the demon because of how well she was able to attract all those people. And when that demon became released because of the power that she uh, 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 put out, it it released the demon, and they had to fight and destroy the demon to seal it. And what happened is, because of that sealing, they wanted to protect her by telling her a lie that her father didn't want to be with her, because in the reality of the situation is that she released a demon, and she was too young to understand that she caused a whole country to be destroyed. So instead of telling her the truth, they told her a lie, and they left, and he had to cry, and he by him leaving, it left a sense of emptiness inside of her. But what she did was she found a way to reconnect to the whole world in a to the point that she got everybody to come to her, and she was able to bring all these people together. And at that point, everybody got back into that actual dreamlike space with her, and it released the demon again. But this time she became aware. But when she became aware that the demon was the reason why everything was destroyed, she went above and beyond to reconnect to herself, to destroy that demon. And from that point, she became free, and everybody became free along with her. And the story just went, and it just went to a whole beautiful space from there. So I don't know if I told that all the way, but the point behind that was the fact that there's going to be a point where that you're going to be moving so great that is going to attract certain demons against you, and certain pitfalls, and certain entities that's going to try and take away or leverage your ability or your greatness for their own personal gains. And when they do those things, I'm saying be aware of that. Let you know that there are going to always be someone's, as you level up and as you level out, there's going to be always someone there to try and leverage that for their gain and not your benefits. So when that happens, you know that, look, you're on the right path, but also you know that they can that you not. I don't want to get too far, and I don't want to get too tongue talk. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to let that go before it gets too all off subject. So, what I want to go right there is that how do we get out of the purgatory space? Is when you get into that purgatory space, and now it's time to, and you're trying to figure out how to get out of that. When you're trying to get yourself out of it, there's going to be a point where that doing that purgatory points is, in your transition out, you're going to be leaning on old relationships or past relationships. And that's the point where that you got to let that go. When you let that old man or those old relationships go, and not sever the ties, but let it be where it was, which was the past, you open yourself up to a new environment. And when you put yourself into that new environment, you're going to find yourself that you're destined to move towards top or the highest levels. Why? Because once you experience something on a high level or an abundant or abundant space, it's hard to go down, and that can be emotionally draining. But when you're able to do that, understand that this is what greatness look like, or this what abundance feels like. At that point, when you change your environment or open yourself up to get to people that are now living that space in the regular world, or in the world that now becomes your new world. For example, I can say my world. When I was the top of the food chain in the exotic entertainment industry, and I had to come down or let the clubs go and leave the bars alone, I still had the skill sets. So when I got associated with new affluent people, there came a point where I reached back to all of my old people to see if they want to rock with me as I go into this new journey. And when I found that they didn't want to, not because they doubted me, but they doubted themselves, that it could benefit them. So when I moved forward and started getting into the right rooms of the new affluent people, I started attracting new friends, new people, and they started put me in different positions and different levels of prosperity and abundance, that now I'm able to reach back to my friends now and let them know this is what I did and this is how it worked. But also, I got to the point where that you can see the fruits of the labor. And sometimes you got to do that hard work or that hard work and that shadow work so that you can prove not only to them, because they don't really matter, but it does matter. And what I mean by that is that you been in a circle of people that actually that you work with and rock with, but when they don't move how you move, of course you feel a sense of abandonment or a sense of loneliness, and that's okay. What I'm saying is that even though you feel that way, it's not going to always stay that way, because if you prove to yourself by showing yourself what you really mean by going out and above and becoming an exoticpreneur, defining your purpose the way you see it, and you can look back and say, look, I done it, but I didn't do it on me. I did it because I was destined for a certain vision that was called or downloaded to me, and I had to go out and do the work. And now that I do the work, here's the fruits of the labor. It's how a fruit tree grows its fruit. Sometimes it's got to dig a little deep. It's got to go a little harder in the ground just to produce more fruit at a higher level, so that the best fruit is always going to be at the top of that tree, not at the bottom. The low-hanging fruit just going to fall to the ground and be left open to everybody else. But a hot tree, you got to put a little bit more work. You got to climb a little harder, but it be the juiciest, the most delicious, the most nutritious fruit on the planet. And that's the point of purpose that you can have and achieve, but that also requires you to work a little harder, go a little higher, get a little deeper into the roots, so that you can get the highest form of nutrition, value, and greatness that's in you. And with that being said, I invite y'all to go ahead and subscribe to the thing. Follow me on Instagram. We can hit it like this, and I need y'all all to stay healthy. Let's get buffing.